Forms. How do you build them? Welcome back. My name is Josh, and I'm the community manager and one of the lead developers here at Mobiconnect. And today we're back to talk about Mobiconnect, and in particular, the forms function. Now, forms can take many forms online. Most traditionally, your simple contact forms, which, just basically take customer information, throw them to your email, and away you go. Get a little bit more advanced, you get a CRM involved, that sort of stuff, all works. Now, if your use case is a little bit more complicated, for example, you've got forms that need to be completed every day for a job, compliance, for example, it can be hard to manually have to give those forms out, even if they are every day. You got to schedule that sort of stuff, hard to track if it's being complete. You've got to manually put it all in the same place on a server, for example, and you've got very limited tracking and oversight and when it was completed, when it was ticked off, and then, actually giving it to all your staff every day. One of the best things about Mobiconnect is that all the features generally can be worked and used together to achieve a more streamlined process. So using a combination of features can take you beyond just simply building a form to having your users in there, automatically assigning the forms on whatever interval they need, or if they're just one-off, setting a date that needs to be completed by, and much, much more. Now, enough from me. We're going to dive straight in and show you how to set up a project and basically use forms to its max. Okay, first things first, as always, log in. And as you see here, I've got a couple of projects. For this one, we're going to create a fresh project just for forms, just for managing forms. So building it in the with the idea that it'll just be used for forms. Now, when you're selecting your features, which you can update later, but setting it up at this point just sort of streamlines the process. So for this one, we could just select Form Builder, which of course would give us the ability to build forms. But what I'm going to do is select Document Manager. Now, Document Manager takes the core concept of the Form Builder and then adds the features necessary to really maximize that streamlined process I was talking about earlier. So if you just go Continue, just skipping over the payment process. That's usually required. Okay, now that we've created a project and selected the features, let's have a look at the Form Builder. So if we go to the Form Builder feature on the left-hand side menu, because as with any new project, all the features you select will go into this left-hand side menu here. So here we are in Forms, and as you can see, we've got no forms currently available because we've got a brand new project. So first thing we're going to do is go into New to create a new form. Now, just with anything, what type of form we're going to build, so we've got to decide on that. Now, I've got a totally not fictitious form right here that I have designed for this, which is our induction checklist. I've just made up a bunch of fields just so we've got something to work towards. So obviously, in a traditional sense with, induction checklists or anything like that, you'll have a manual form that you print off, you give to your staff, they scribble on it and give it back to you. You scan it and you then drag it into a folder and do all that. Very old school. Very simple form, name, email, address, supervisor, bunch of yes or no questions or checklist questions, and then some notes down the bottom, which I've just dumped Lorem Ipsum in there just to have some text. How do we digitize this form? Well, let's get started here. We'll call this the induction checklist just to match what we got in there. Now in Forms, we've also got tags and this checkbox here is default CSS. If you're not a developer, don't worry about CSS. You're going to hear CSS probably a few times throughout this video, but if it doesn't mean anything to you, just don't worry about it. Tags, it's just another way of categorizing anything within Mobiconnect. Tags is pretty much available across all things that you build, so we're not going to worry about tags for now. With anything, again, in Mobiconnect, well, almost anything, you've really got two states. So anything you're publishing, I should say. You've got a draft state and a published state. As the name suggests, draft is as you're working on it. And the key differences between them is just to separate them from can be selected by another feature or not. So, for example, if you're working on a form and you have a saved version of that form, a draft version of that form, as you will, and a published version. If you go to tasks and you go to choose a form to assign to a user, you won't be able to see the draft form, but you will be able to see the published form. So that just means that nobody who's working in the platform can accidentally assign work product to another staff member, user, etc. So it's just to keep it nice and safe. So now that we've got the name of our form, we'll just save that. And now this will save it in a draft mode. First things first, add a block. Now, the blocks is just a row that will contain either inputs or elements on the form. So if we go back to our fake form here, you'll see that at the top, we've got company logo, contact information with the email and the phone number. So if we want to replicate that, we'll just choose one column here. And we've got from the plus list here, inputs and elements. An input, as the name suggests, is anything that has user input. Elements are static information, so headers, images, video, and even stuff like raw HTML, which again will only matter to you if you're a developer. To copy what we have, we'll choose a single image. And of the single image, we'll delete this default one, and we'll just go in and choose the same logo we used before, and then click save. Go to preview. It's massive, so what are we going to do to fix that up? Let's add some padding on the left and right. So we'll just say 300 pixels. That should do. There you go. More. Perfect. So as you saw there, I'm shifting between two modes, edit and preview. So this edit mode is just to simplify the layout process. And then, of course, preview is how that's going to physically look to your end user. So this just means it's easier to see everything that's going on. And then, of course, preview, what's actually the output of that. So I might want a little bit more top padding. There we go. Just add a little bit more there. And the second thing I want to add here is just a simple, that's a text input, sorry. I want to add a text block because this is going to be static. You'll see the two pluses here actually, just quickly. As the name suggests, add element before or add element after. With a lot of the stuff in the Mobiconnect platform, if you hover over it, if you're not sure what it does, it'll tell you. So add element before, element after. Nice and easy. Save, duplicate, etc. So here we're just going to basically copy this out and save. Preview. Now, you'll see the formatting is slightly off here. What we're going to do to fix the formatting up is we're going to add another element called a space, or spacer, I should say. Spacer 16 pixels, that should do. If we drag that in between, we've now got a nice space here. Now, the other thing we're going to do is instead of text align left, we're going to text align center, and that way it's nice and centered there. If you wanted to force everything to be centered, you can, by default, you can change the text alignment here to center as well as the text color, and that'll also allow you to do it. In the block settings also as well, just to cover off here, you've got a few different things. Background colors, color overlays, if you put a background image in and you just wanted sort of like a black opaque or, another colored opaque over the top. Some CSS, which are, again, more dev stuff, which you don't need to worry about. Now that we've got our header to match this one, we just need the title. So let's add another space and then a header block. And our header block is going to say induction checklist, which I have spelled correctly. Happy days. So we're going to go pop in semi-bold. We've got most web fonts, most basic web fonts here. So we'll choose 48 pixels by 62 pixels. We're happy with the sort of off black color. Let's just choose a slightly more off black color, a bit more of a royal black. And then we'll go back to preview. And there we go, induction checklist. Happy days. Because of what we set up here. There we go. Nice and easy. next on the list. So we've sort of done with the top section here, and we've got the fields here. Now, in a traditional form, this is, very standard sort of layout. What I might do to make it a bit cleaner for digital is choose a 2-column layout and then just basically have 1, 1, 1, 1. So we just split those fields up and keeps the form a little bit shorter. Instead of elements this time, we're going to put some text fields in. These are all text inputs, so pretty straightforward. So we're just going to say, first name, full name in this case. We can choose a placeholder for that text field. So we'll say Jane Smith, just to give them an idea. You can choose default values. Obviously, in this instance, it's not going to matter because you can't have a default value for a name. And you can choose a help text. Obviously, no one's going to need a help text for their name. But for the sake of example, I'll add one. This field is for your name. And then we save that. And we go back to preview here. And there we go. You'll see that it's rendered a full field here on the left-hand side. If we go to here again, we add another text field. What's the other one? We'll say, okay, so that's for the email. Actually, you know what? We'll do on the right-hand side. And there's actually an email field. Difference between a text field and an email field. An email field's going to auto-identify if it's a valid email structure. So it's got, @.com in it. So that just makes it easier on the validation side of things. And we'll say your email, test@example.com. That's perfect for it. And we'll say the email is required. And you can choose your required text. So I'll just say that. Now, when you choose a required field, the difference is you'll see the little asterisk there. And as the name suggests, when you click on it and say you don't fill it out, it'll say the error message that you gave. So email is required in this case. And we'll go in and add next location. Location is for auto-filling addresses. So we'll say your address as the label name, sorry. And we'll say 123 Fake Street and save that. And if we go back to preview here, you'll see 123 Fake Street. But if I was to type in, start typing, it starts auto-filling from Google. So it just makes life easy. And last but not least was the supervisor name, I believe. So that was just a simple text field. So we'll just say supervisor name. And it'd be great if I could spell. And we'll call this one John Smith, because we're super original with working out names. And this is also required, just for the sake of argument. Oh, we don't want to leave that empty. We'll say name is required. There we go. And preview. And there we go. We've got our 4 fields now, and everything's set up nicely. Now, one thing, we want to add something that we didn't have before, something like a date and time picker. So we'll choose date and time, and we'll say it's required, and we'll say form completed. Actually, we probably don't need time for that. We'll say just a date picker instead. So date select, we'll say date complete, which is probably something I should have had in the other form anyway. And required as well. Date is required. And then save. Date complete, which will autofill today's date, which is nice and handy. But you'll see here that our form is now misaligned because we've got 3 fields on the left and 2 on the right, and it's trying to center them vertically. Now, the reason it's doing that is because it is probably, the V-aligned content. So this is basically taking the content on the left and the right, vertically aligning them automatically. Switch that off and then save, and there you go. Nice and easy. So next on the list, we've got these tasks that I just made up, because I know how to induct stuff. It looks like a 2-column, but for this, actually, we'll use a single column, and I'll show you why. So first things first, we need the little header at the top, which said, please check off below as you complete the tasks. And we'll left align that. We'll just leave it regular. And if we just hit save, it'll save everything at the default size. So if we go back to preview here, you'll see Plex chase these off. There we go. I might just quickly, there you go. And the reason we didn't choose the 2 columns like it is in that other form is because we have fields like the checkbox and the toggle. So we can choose either of these and both would sort of suit our purposes. The checkbox is probably the easiest to use because it's a very straight Boolean yes or no. We've obviously got, these random questions here. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make it easier on us and just copy and paste all of these in. So I'll just say save, and what do we got? 4 of them. So we'll just add 4 straight up. Bang, bang. Last but not least, bang. So if we go back up to preview here, you'll see we've got, please check these off. Bang, 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 bang. Now, as you can see, we need a bit of a space. So just like in any other place, we're going to go back up to edit and we're going to go add a spacer. And we know that the default 16 pixels. So we can just basically say, yeah, that's fine. Actually, no, it's a bit much. So we'll change that down to 8 pixels and hit save. There we go. Looks much nicer. And next on the list was just the static text at the bottom. Just like with anything we've done so far, we can simply add that, and we can add a text block. Nope, that's text input. We can add a text block and we can just simply copy in the text as we had it. There we go. Now it's stripped the formatting from that. So let's just go and, we'll say bold this just like it was in our other document. And we left a line, that's fine. And we hit save on that and we are good to go. Okay, now that the form is pretty much complete, the last step is an optional one. It's submit to folder. Now, submit to folder will basically automatically, every time this form is completed, it will save it to that folder that you select. So for now, we'll just leave it empty and we'll cover that off later. So we'll just publish the form and there we go. We've got our new published form ready to be assigned to users. So that's all for this video. We're going to cover off next in part 2, how the forms can be used in other features in Mobiconnect. For all of our other videos, please click here-ish. I hope this video outlined exactly what you can do with a form builder. And of course, there's much, much more once you get in and start playing around. That'll be all from me for now. I will see you in the next video.